Welcome to Dark Tale Delights. Thanks for listening to the stories I post, and if you like the stories, please subscribe and like the channel to help us grow. Now, enjoy the story. The Murder in a Back Alley, a Chilling Tale. Join me as we embark on a journey to unravel a perplexing and chilling murder that took place in a dimly lit back alley. This murder sent shockwaves through the community, leaving residents unnerved and questioning their safety. The mysterious crime scene. As I arrived at the crime scene, the eerie silence of the back alley only added to the mystery of the murder. The dimly lit surroundings were an indication that this was no ordinary crime scene, and that there was something sinister that had taken place. The alley itself was about 20 feet long that led to a dead end, with a single street light that barely illuminated the surroundings. The walls were graffitied, and garbage cans were strewn across the ground. The fact that this was not a well-maintained area only added to the complexity of the back alley murder. As I walked closer to the crime scene, I saw the victim's body lying on the ground, surrounded by police tape. The victim was a woman, and it was evident from the way she was positioned that she had been attacked from behind. I could see dark bruises on the back of her head and neck, indicating that she had been hit with a blunt object. Her belongings were scattered on the ground next to her, and it was clear that she had put up a struggle. The darkness of the alley only added to the mystery of the murder. The police had already begun to search for clues, and I saw them taking photographs of the crime scene from different angles. They had marked the spots where they had found potential evidence, like a broken bottle and a discarded shoe. The bloodstains on the concrete were also carefully marked, and the police were examining them for DNA samples which could lead to the back alley murderer. Crime scene details. Details. Date: June 12, 2021. Location: Back Alley, Block 4, New York City. Victim: unidentified, female. Time of murder: between 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Cause of death: head injury from a blunt object. The crime scene was full of unanswered questions that would need to be carefully examined in the following days. Who was the victim, and why was she in this dark alley? Did she know her attacker, or was it a random act of violence? These were the questions that lingered in the back of my mind as the police continued to investigate the back alley murder. The victim, who was she? As I continued delving into the back alley murder case, my attention turned to the victim. Who was she? What was her backstory? After poring over police reports and conducting interviews with those close to the victim, I discovered that her name was Sarah Smith. She was a 32-year-old woman who had lived in the city her entire life. Sarah was a kind and gentle soul, beloved by all who knew her. But as I dug deeper, I also uncovered a darker side to Sarah's life. She had struggled with addiction in the past, and her demons had recently resurfaced. Her family and friends had grown increasingly worried about her, and many had tried to intervene and help her get back on track. As I uncovered more about Sarah's past, I couldn't help but wonder, did her struggles with addiction play a role in her untimely demise? The suspects: unraveling the web of intrigue. As the investigation into the back alley murder began, a number of suspects emerged, each with their own potential motive for the crime. From jilted lovers to shady business associates, the web of intrigue around the victim's life seemed to have no shortage of potential culprits. I knew from the start that this was going to be a complex case. I remember telling my colleagues at the time. The victim's past is shrouded in mystery, and we're going to have to dig deep to get to the truth. As the weeks went on, we interviewed each suspect, piecing together their connections to the victim and analyzing their alibis. And yet, with each lead we chased down, the web of intrigue only seemed to grow more tangled. Suspect. Motive. Alibi. John Smith, jealousy, was obsessed with the victim. At home alone. Samantha Jones, business rivalry, victim was set to launch a competing product. In a meeting with colleagues. David Chen, blackmail, victim had discovered unethical practices at his company. No alibi provided. As you can see, each suspect had a motive that could plausibly explain their involvement in the crime. But without concrete evidence, we couldn't definitively pin the murder on any one of them. It wasn't until we uncovered a crucial piece of evidence, a surveillance video that captured the killer's face, that we were finally able to untangle the web of intrigue and bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation into the back alley murder will always stick with me as a reminder of the complexities of detective work. Each case is unique, and it takes a combination of diligence, intuition, and luck to unravel the mystery and bring closure to the victim's loved ones. The detective's pursuit. As soon as I stepped onto the crime scene, I knew this was going to be a challenging case. However, as a detective, I was determined to uncover the truth and bring the perpetrator to justice. The investigation started with gathering evidence, questioning potential witnesses, and identifying the victim. With each step, I felt closer to solving this mystery, but it seemed like every lead led to a dead end. I spent countless hours poring over the evidence, trying to connect the dots and unravel the truth. The pressure was on to solve this case, not just for myself but for the victim's family and the community. The pressure of the investigation. The investigation was a relentless pursuit of truth. Every piece of evidence could be the key to solving the case, so we left no stone unturned. The pressure was intense, and it was crucial to keep a level head while examining every detail. This quote became somewhat of a mantra during the investigation. We needed to think outside the box and connect the dots in ways we may not have initially considered. The breakthrough moment. After weeks of digging through clues and dead ends, we finally had a breakthrough. A witness came forward with a crucial piece of information that led us to the perpetrator. It was a true, aha moment, and it felt like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders. From there, it was a matter of connecting the rest of the puzzle pieces and building a solid case for the prosecution. It was a complex case, but the pursuit of truth paid off in the end. The satisfaction of closing the case. After months of hard work, the case was finally closed, and justice was served. It was a satisfying feeling, knowing that the perpetrator was held accountable for their actions and that we could bring closure to the victim's family and the community. The pursuit of truth is never an easy road, but it's a crucial one. As a detective, it's my duty to seek out the truth and bring justice to those who have been wronged. It's a challenging but rewarding journey, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Unraveling the clues, piece by piece. As the investigation into the back alley murder unfolded, a series of clues and evidence emerged, each shedding new light on the identity of the perpetrator. Through diligent detective work, the pieces slowly began to click together, unraveling the mystery piece by piece. One of the key clues was a discarded cigarette butt found at the crime scene. The detective in charge of the case immediately sent it for DNA analysis, hoping it would provide a much-needed break in the case. The analysis revealed a match to a known criminal with a history of violence, marking him as the prime suspect in the murder. Further examination of the crime scene also uncovered a distinctive shoe print, leading investigators to search for a suspect with a similar style of footwear. The investigation eventually led them to a local shoe store, where they discovered that the same shoe style had been purchased by the prime suspect just days before the murder. Evidence. Analysis. Cigarette butt. Matched DNA to known criminal. Distinctive shoe print. Matched to shoe style purchased by prime suspect. The combination of DNA evidence and the matching shoe print created a compelling case against the prime suspect, leading to his arrest and subsequent trial. However, there were still some unanswered questions, and the prosecution continued to seek additional evidence to strengthen their case. The discovery of a bloody knife near the crime scene provided crucial evidence that tied the suspect directly to the murder. The knife was identified as belonging to the suspect and contained traces of the victim's blood, providing the final piece of evidence needed to secure a conviction. Overall, it was the meticulous analysis of the clues and evidence that ultimately led to the resolution of this chilling murder case. Through a combination of DNA analysis, shoe print examination, and forensic investigation, the perpetrator was brought to justice, providing a sense of closure for both the victim's family and the surrounding community. The suspects, unraveling the web of intrigue. As the investigation into the back alley murder gained momentum, a number of suspects emerged. Each had their own motives, secrets, and agendas, making it difficult for investigators to unravel the web of intrigue surrounding this chilling crime. The jealous ex-boyfriend. One of the prime suspects was the victim's ex-boyfriend, who had a history of jealousy and possessiveness. He admitted to being in the area on the night of the murder but claimed he didn't see or hear anything suspicious. The shady business partner. Another suspect was the victim's business partner, with whom she had been having a number of disagreements in the weeks leading up to her death. He had a history of shady deals and questionable practices, making him a likely candidate for foul play. "I had nothing to do with her death," he protested during his interrogation. "We may have had our differences, but I would never resort to violence." The envious co-worker. A co-worker of the victim's also fell under suspicion, particularly after it was revealed that she had been passed over for a promotion that the victim had received. Her jealousy and resentment towards the victim were well known, making her a likely suspect in the eyes of investigators. The mysterious stranger. Finally, there was the mysterious stranger who had been seen in the area around the time of the murder. No one knew who he was or what his motives might have been, but his presence in the back alley on that fateful night made him a person of interest in the investigation. The hidden motives. As investigators delved deeper into each suspect's background, hidden motives began to emerge. Some were driven by greed, others by jealousy or revenge. Still others had dark secrets that they were desperate to keep hidden. It was up to the lead detective to piece together these disparate threads, following the clues and evidence wherever they led. But as the investigation progressed, it became clear that the back alley murder was a mystery unlike any other, with twists and turns that no one could have predicted. The trial, justice served. As the trial began, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. All eyes were on the defendant as they sat stoically, awaiting the verdict that would determine their fate. The prosecution presented a compelling case, laying out the evidence piece by piece. The witnesses they called to the stand were confident and credible, their testimonies painting a vivid picture of the events that led up to the murder in the back alley. The motive was clear, and the defendant's alibi was flimsy at best. The defendant had a clear motive for the murder, and the evidence against them is overwhelming, the prosecution argued. But the defense was not to be outdone. With skilled cross-examination and sharp arguments, they cast doubt on the prosecution's case. They pointed out inconsistencies in the witnesses' stories and highlighted possible alternative scenarios that the jury should consider. The prosecution has presented a circumstantial case, and there are too many holes to be confident beyond a reasonable doubt, the defense countered. The jury deliberated for hours, carefully considering the evidence and arguments presented to them. Finally, they returned to the courtroom with a verdict. Jury's verdict. The judge read the verdict aloud. "We the jury find the defendant guilty of murder in the first degree." The defendant was visibly shaken as they were escorted out of the courtroom, headed to a life behind bars. But was justice truly served? Despite the guilty verdict, there were still those who believed the defendant was innocent, that the evidence was too circumstantial and the motives too unclear. The trial may have ended, but the debate continues to this day. The unforgotten memories, impact on the community. As I reflect on the back alley murder and the investigation that followed, it's impossible to ignore the profound impact it had on the community. The shockwaves of the crime reverberated throughout the neighborhood, leaving a lasting mark on those who called it home. The sense of safety and security that once permeated the streets was shattered, replaced by a palpable fear and mistrust. People avoided the alleyway where the murder occurred, casting suspicious glances at anyone who entered or exited it. The once friendly neighborhood became a place where everyone kept to themselves, their guard up and their hearts heavy. But beyond the immediate aftermath of the crime, the back alley murder also had a deeper impact on the community. It forced us to confront the harsh realities of life, the fragility of our existence, and the darkness that can lurk just beneath the surface. It underscored the importance of looking out for one another, of keeping each other safe, and of never taking anything for granted. As the trial played out and justice was served, there was a collective exhale of relief. The community began to heal, to slowly rebuild the trust that had been shattered by the crime. But the memories of that night, of the victim, and of the impact it had on us all, will never be forgotten. Conclusion: final thoughts on unraveling the murder in a back alley. As I reflect on the journey of exploring this chilling tale of murder in a back alley, I am left with a sense of unease and sadness. While the investigation may have led to justice being served, the impact on the victim's loved ones and the community as a whole cannot be ignored. Through the various sections, we have explored the crime scene, identified the victim, examined the suspects, and followed the detective's pursuit of truth. We have uncovered crucial clues and hidden motives that shed light on the case. However, there are still unresolved questions. What if there were other suspects? Were all the pieces of evidence fully analyzed? These are questions that may never be answered, and it leaves me with a sense of lingering curiosity. What is clear, however, is that this back alley murder had a significant impact on the community. The shockwaves of the crime were felt for a long time, and the scars are still visible years later.